Hey, this is Carrie Brown with Real Estate 101, and I am with eXp Realty. I'm a real estate broker with eXp Realty. And I am back with Chuck Sutherland. Chuck is, it was described to me that there are levels of equity exchanging, and Chuck is in the PhD level of the transactions. He actually is a real estate broker. He owns his own brokerage, which is Sutherland Real Estate. Originally from Kansas. And you live in Texas now, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Dallas area.
So if you watched the last show, we were talking about seller financing. Chuck is, he's written several books, and I will make sure and post those so that you have a direct link to them. My computer that is on has now gone blank. So I'm going to have Chuck tell you which books they are. And like I said, I will make sure that you have a link to them. But this particular segment, we're going to be talking about creative down payments. But before we start that, Chuck, what are the names of your books again?
So the first book is Creative Seller Financing. These are all on Kindle, on Amazon, and the print versions will be out in another 45 days on Amazon as well. But the first book is Creative Seller Financing, and all these books are simple real life examples, actual closed transactions, either by myself or by other people I know personally. And these are not theoretical. You know, when I hear PhD, I think, theoretical a lot, but not theoretical. It's like real life deals and in different areas. The first book's on seller financing, which we've done a lot of in our years, both as buyer and as seller. And then the second book is on creative down payments, using something other than money as at least a down payment to buy real estate. And I'll share some examples during this segment of that. The third one is the advanced creative real estate financing, which is I would say it's more of the advanced area, like not only including partnerships and joint ventures, but also doing transactions that are bigger or more difficult to put together, particularly in recessions on commercial property when no one's buying commercial property in that particular era. How do you make a transaction? And as I said earlier, in the earlier segment, we operate from the principle that people are more important than property. We make our transactions primarily because we negotiate deals with real people, and we are working to satisfy their needs as well as our needs at the same time. Relationship is more important to us than the deal, because we're going to be doing more transactions with the same exact people or their friends for years to come.
Before we get into the down payments, let's talk about, say you're a first-time investor or you're just getting going and you've got several single-family properties, but you want to get out of single-family properties. Mm-hmm. What would you suggest that they look into? I know mobile home parks are all the rage. What do you find to be a really good investment?
Well, I consider it to be a really good investment things other people don't want. So everybody wants mobile home parks. I'm not in mobile home parks. But I am in RV parks, which everybody also wants. But I'm in every RV parks that are a problem child to somebody. They don't know what to do with them. They've got something that's a problem that makes them not attractive to the marketplace. I shared an example, where we bought a RV park in Pensacola that was previously a nudist facility. So, that was something nobody wanted to deal with, even as the fact that it was closed. We closed it, made sure it got closed, and the gate worked to keep people out because we didn't want people showing up to go to the nudist park.
So and now I have a sign that says clothing is not optional; it's required.
Yeah, clothing required. Yeah, clothing required. So we like we look for something that nobody else really wants. We can make more profit off of those than we can off of properties that everybody wants. Mm-hmm. So, for example, everybody right now wants apartments. and they want a lot of apartments. The more apartments they want, the price, the yield goes down because the price has been going up so much.
Right.
So you're making a yield of, in some parts of the country, you're making a yield of 3.5%, like California's 3%. Not untypical. Cap rates, the capitalization rates, yield on the total purchase price. So we want something that we're not interested in that at all. So if somebody's the beginning buyer, look for something that you know you can handle, and either you can handle by yourself or with somebody else. Don't go too far outside of your comfort zones, like distance. I do business all over the country, but some people may only be able to do business a short distance because they're going to have to remodel a property. You wouldn't want to have to remodel a property by yourself if it were halfway across the country.
Right.
You got to find something that fits what your comfort zones are, both geographically and management wise. It would be crazy for a new investor to go buy a 300 unit condemned property. You're going to go and remodel the whole thing by yourself. You got to do what works for you. So I think the better investments today are properties, again, nobody really wants to own for one reason or the other. So I'd be looking in this, if you're just buying houses, and that's how I got started, was houses and duplexes. Go buy some bigger properties, but be willing to do something else. But be willing to buy a property that you can remodel it, fix up, and keep, or resell. Be looking for something that's overlooked in your marketplace. Surprisingly, you can drive along, if you put on these what you might call rose-colored glasses and drive down the road in your community, you'll find properties that nobody has a sign up on. Is obviously not in good condition or something's wrong with it. And easy to find out who owns that property. Just call the tax authority. Typically, you can find out that information online even today. And look for something that nobody else is looking at in your own market. You'll find plenty of opportunity in your own market for value, but you might have to go outside your comfort zone a little bit. If you know single family, maybe a triplex that's run down, you could remodel. Or if you're invested in a little commercial building, maybe a vacant larger building, or partially vacant. How could you make that work? So I'm always looking for the value from the things other people don't want to own. So that would be the first thing I'd say. And then at the same time, you don't want to get crazy about it either. You don't want to go buy, like a closed Burger King if you've never done anything in that commercial area at all. You don't want to go too far outside of your knowledge or ability to get knowledge. You don't have to know everything, but you want to know somebody who knows what you don't know.
That'd be a good time to have a partner that knows more.
That's right. And that's where I've done most my whole life, is have a partner that knew more than I did in a certain area, and I knew more than they did in a different area. Like, I knew how to develop a property, they knew how to raise money for a deal, or they knew self-storage, how to develop it. I knew self-storage in terms of analysis. Put the two together, we can make some money together. So there's lots of opportunity in the country, but it's not down the well-worn path that other people are traveling.
Right. And in the prior segment, we were talking about partnerships, and it kind of brings to mind something that our attorney Vern Jarbo told me one time. He said the best way to have a partnership is to already fill out what the divorce will look like.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what's going to happen. But as long as everybody, while the cool heads are there, while we still love each other, process is there in a partnership, you've filled out what would it look like if we did decide that this isn't working for us. For one reason or the other, life changes could happen. Definitely discuss the ins and outs while everything's still in a positive frame.
Yeah.
Versus, now we're mad at each other.
Yeah, and and that's a good, one of the reasons you have a good, if you have a limited liability company that you're forming together or a joint venture, that you have good documents drawn up that are reviewed by two sets of attorneys, not just one. And we have, when we do an investment deal with more than one person, we use an LLC, a liability corporation, so that we can, and that spells out all that operating agreement in terms of what you're going to do and not do, and what happens when it doesn't work. So what happens if there's a problem down the line? We still are partners with one. We've been partners in those deals for 25 years.
Wow.
So, it's, some partnerships work long-term, some work short-term, but situations change a lot when people, you go down the road 5-10 years, and people may not even be married to the same people. One party might even be dead. There's lots of things happen, and finances change, children change things for you, and so it's a good idea to have it really spelled out well and reviewed by an attorney on both sides.
Absolutely. So creative down payments.
Yeah, well, that's a good time to talk about single families on creative down payments, because and it works. And I'm first to admit that certain kinds of creative transactions work better when times get rocky versus when times are great, or there's a lot of money in the market. Right now, there's a ton of money in the market looking for places to delight. And so, but we've done a lot of these transactions in the changeover period between good times and bad times. I'll give you an example of that. So I lived in Wichita, and there came a time I was looking for a new house. The market was not that great at the time, not anything like, well, could be like it is today because prices are so high today. But I found a house I wanted. It was owned by a couple. They were having trouble making the payments, and but they wanted retail price for it. And even my own personal residence, I want to be able to make a reasonable transaction with it, not pay way overpriced. So we offered them. I had accumulated some land in North Dakota from previous transactions, and so I offered them 10 free and clear lots in North Dakota and some cash, and I assumed their mortgage. And we made that transaction because they needed, number one, they needed to not to lose their property in foreclosure because they weren't able to make the payments. They also wanted something out of it in terms of their equity, and they wanted not to end up with a bad credit rating on their, if they ended up having property foreclosed on. So that's where we did a simple little, for me, it's simple transaction, again, that met their needs. And we closed that transaction pretty quickly. I went down to the bank, the savings bank that had the loan, and they knew me, I knew them. And they agreed to allow an assumption like on the spot. So that was a simple transaction. Again, people more important than the property, and then finding a way that works for everybody involved in the transaction. So that was a simple one. But I'll talk about the other extreme. Steve Barker, who's a developer out of North Carolina, and I bought a hotel, not quite closed, should have been closed, hotel in North Dakota in 2004. And when I stayed there, there was 149 rooms, I think it was, in the hotel, and 5 of them were occupied the first night I stayed there, and that included me.
Wow.
And
scary.
Because the property was in terrible condition. It had good bones, though. I like good bones in a building. In other words, good structure. But we wanted to buy this property. I had tried to buy it actually earlier in the year on my own, and I ran into a problem with the with the uh, with the sellers in terms of what they were able to do, not what they were willing to do, what they were able to do. And so we came back at them the second time with Steve and me and Bob is working together as a partner in the deal. And we gave them, we had to end up buying the land underneath the building because it was already owned by a third-party investor. So we bought the land for cash, and we gave the seller enough cash that, in terms of the building, that they could pay their debts off the building. We gave them a piece of commercial land that we got from the buyer, that we bought the land from the whole property, gave a piece of land that was not covered by any mortgage to them as the down payment to buy the building. It was cash, came in with cash, and then we ended up using the land that we had bought with the cash as a down payment to buy the building. And then we remodeled the property. Funny thing, we started painting. We didn't because we put all our cash out on the front end. We didn't have any money to remodel yet. We just figured we'd figure it out as we went. Sometimes that's what you do in a real estate transaction, is you don't have everything all figured out. If you wait until everything's all figured out, it's going to be too late.
Right.
The deals are either gone. That's why you have to develop the capacity to make decisions as you go, because if you can't make a decision, you'll never do anything. You'll just be waiting until the deal's perfect, and it never gets perfect. So we bought that, and first thing I did was hire 2 painters at the time at $10 an hour to start painting walls, because the thing was in terrible condition. So we started painting walls, and painted more walls, painted more walls, painted more walls. We were just painting crazy in the hotel, trying to get it back in shape, cleaning it. It was a terrible condition. And banker comes over one day and says, "You guys are doing a lot of remodeling here." Because he ate Sunday brunch over at the hotel, had a good brunch. So he said, "You're doing a lot of work here," because we were doing all the painting in the lobby. He's, he thinks we were doing a whole bunch of stuff upstairs too, and we were mostly cleaning upstairs, but we weren't doing any painting yet. So he says, "You all need a loan." So the banker coming to you asking if you need a loan is a good sign that you're doing something right. So we made a deal, and they loaned us money to remodel the property, and we built it up. And then the oil boom hit and just really helped us a lot. And we had built 43 suites next door to it. In other words, we took something that we bought with cash and something else, and we ended up building this, building up this property, remodeling it, reached 99% occupancy during the oil booms. It was an example of something that we bought using our understanding of people and trying to structure a deal that worked for everybody, which is what we did in that situation. So that's the extreme example. That's a big property but we didn't do it by ourselves. And it took a lot of work, a lot of elbow grease, and Steve and I, we didn't really charge for our time during those couple of years when we were building it up, but we ended up making money in the end. And so again, you can come up with all kinds of things you can use as a down payment to buy something with. I know that over the years we've done transactions. I took I had a house that was in terrible condition. I bought this house. It was in terrible condition. It was held together by the termites in the walls, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it was that bad. And so we, sometimes you buy something and it was a lemon. It was kind of a lemon, but I had a guy come to me who was on the edge of the city, and he wanted to use the back for his trucks. He was a exterminator, And so he had trucks and chemicals and stuff like that. He needed to park. It was right at the edge of the city, so he didn't feel like he had a problem out there. He didn't. So we took in, but the only thing he could give me was a free and clear mobile home as a down payment, and it needed remodeling. It was $8,000 value, so you can tell it wasn't that huge a great property. But and then he gave me a carryback financing on the balance. Well, I figured out, fixed up the mobile home and sold it over the next year, and then tornado came through and tore down the house, part of the house, and he got insurance, and it was the house, part of the house that was held together by the termites. So he made out really well. He got insurance money, paid us off. You know, it was like, so that was a simple example. This time I'm the one that's accepting something as a down payment. Why did I do that? Well, it had a few problems. The building had a few problems that an exterminator would be a good owner for. Termites.
He's in the best place he can be. He's got
That's right. So again, you know, it's like, how do you solve the problems of the people in the transaction? Everybody's got problems, because if you want something and you don't have it, you got a problem. Anytime you decide, I want to buy a luxury condo down in Costa Rica. Well, as soon as right now you don't have the money to buy the condo, and you don't necessarily know which condo you want to buy, so you got a problem. Well, but wanting something starts you on the pathway to moving forward. So then you can figure it out as you go. And that's our philosophy. We figure it out as we go.
It was given to me as an example, and what I'm finding is true is I'm doing these interviews with agents that are agents outside of the United States, and they are the masters of bartering. You know, the down payment could be a herd of cattle, or it could be, you know, a chicken. I mean, it could be just about anything. Yeah.
You know, they understand that. You know, a friend of mine who was trying to put together a way for me to go to Poland and to talk about creative real estate, because over there they're just in the process of learning about financing and anything creative. How do they make money in their transactions? How do they do things? They don't have enough money to work with. Well, that's a perfect place for, you don't have money, start with what you do have.
Right.
Use what you do have. Don't wait until you have the money. You wait until you have the money, then might be waiting a long time. And that's not only true about real estate, it's true in life. If you're waiting until you have all your ducks in a row, just know ducks get out of line all the time. You know, you're never going to have them all in a row. They're going to be out all randomized and moving around, and you're not going to be able to keep them in a row. Things happen. So decide what you want, figure out what you've got as a resource to go get it, and then go do that. Again, that's, I think, true in life and true in real estate. If you know what you want, you can figure out how to get it. And if you have to have partners to go do that, have partners. If you want to, if you have to have some education, go get it. If you're going to remodel, you know you're going to have to do it by yourself. Learn. Use YouTube. You'll learn a lot in YouTube. You know, you can learn. You can put a lot of extra hours in. I know so many investors that have started by taking a house or a duplex and remodeling it. They learned a lot about that process, and then they did another one, and then they did another one, and then they did another one, and then they were buying apartments and remodeling them. And again, this is a long-term business. There's a guy at Wichita by the name of Ernie Talley. He was out of Wichita. He's since deceased. He had a home rental company that rented furniture and televisions to people on a rent-to-own basis. He started with one store, and then he added another store. And he didn't start with any money. He did it by himself. So he had a dream to do that, and then he wanted to get in real estate. So he bought a little apartment building in Wichita. Then he bought another one. And then he bought another one. And then he bought another one. And then he sold his rental company called Color Time, and he started another company called Rent-A-Center, which you might have heard of. He started Rent-A-Center, and then he built that up, and then he bought more apartment projects. Then he sold that property. Then he bought more apartments, and then he bought back Rent-A-Center at some point in time, and moving the whole operation to Texas. But the bottom line was he found one thing he wanted to do, and he just worked his butt off to get there. And he knew what he wanted, and he went after what he wanted, and he, whatever it took to, if it took partners or bankers or working hard, working late, he did it. He was willing to pay the price. So that, and so in real estate investing, if you've got something, an RV, as a down payment, or you got an RV that you'll pledge as a down payment. We've taken carry back financing on vehicles, to do, they give us a note secured by their RV. Whatever you got to do to make the transaction work for everybody, you can figure out how to do that if you're not tied into this all cash approach. You got to do it on my terms. Not a lot of movement there, but if you can expand the parameters, what you can do, then you can find a way to make it work. You don't even have to own the real estate that you're using as a down payment, because you've got other people who got real estate as a down payment. In our marketing groups we'll have somebody bring the equity in the form of other real estate to a deal. Because there's a lot of people who got real estate, not as many people have as much cash, though there's more today than there has been. So we just expand our way of thinking so that we're not limited by what everybody else is already doing. That makes sense?
Yes. I mean, if you think about it, the United States, I think we're the more of the narrow minds compared to the other countries around us, because they've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So your book, Creative Down Payments, you're breaking down different scenarios. Is it very similar to your creative seller financing, where you're putting it in layman's terms so that it's
very simple? Yeah. Again, I had to have people re-edit because I only could write it from what my thinking was, and they had to say, no, this doesn't work. I can't understand what you're saying.
We're going to need for you to dumb that down, please.
And it's more like simple is not done.
No.
So simplify, because if you can get the simple steps, you can understand the simple steps. You can have all kinds of variations onto it later. But making an offer with some seller financing is a simple thing to do. And now listening to what other people need, that's something you got to train yourself in. Because mostly we know what we want.
Right.
But when we're terrible, we don't get trained very much to listen to what other people want. So you want to be able to listen to what other people want without trying to make them wrong for it or change their mind. The most futile thing to do is to try to change a person's mind who's got their mind made up.
True.
It's better to listen to what they have to say and either make a deal with them or you don't, but you leave on a friendship or at least cordiality, and then you never know, later on there may be a place where you can come together and come up with something on a transaction. The relationship is far more important than the deal.
Absolutely. So we're going to do another segment, and we're going to be discussing formulas and how to raise money through having partners. So be sure and subscribe so that you can catch that. Whenever I post this, I'm going to post the links to Chuck's books so that it'll be easy for you to find them. Obviously, breaking it down so everybody can understand it, because it is hard to understand until you really get to doing it. The good thing about these guys is they're all so knowledgeable about what they're doing. Chuck, especially, breaking it down, helping deals come together, that this is definitely an amazing segment to watch. So thank you, Chuck, for joining us. Chuck Sutherland. Chuck, real quick, can you tell them what your experience is, like what you're doing with the SEC and National Council of Exchangers and all of those variant groups?
Sure. The Society of Exchange Counselors, the SEC, we meet every couple of months. We'll be meeting in Houston this month. We'll, like I say, we'll have 1 day of education and 3 days of real estate deal making. We meet every couple months, and I taught a course in Chattanooga, which was our last meeting in November, And that one was on straight on formulas. We just talked about that formula, recipes for making real estate deals. And so that was a full day course. And then on the National Council of Exchangers, which is the other group I'm been really involved with, we meet every 3 months somewhere in the, actually we meet in Las Vegas every 3 months because we have a long-term contract with the hotel out there. And then I've been president of that organization, and I'm right now on the board of directors of that organization. And I'm again teaching. I'm teaching 2 classes out there in this month in Vegas as well, and to that organization, one on recipes, creative real estate formulas for today's market, and then the second course is on counseling. Counseling meaning how do you listen to people in a way that you can create a good relationship with them, and that where they get to, you can explore what they need and what you need in a transaction that's in an open way that you can all end up either agreeing not to work together on this deal or being able to make a transaction. So that's my experience with them. I've been a member of each of them since 1995. And then we had local groups that were wouldn't call them affiliates, but in Wichita where I lived, and then in Dallas as well after that, where we had meetings every week or every month, or it depends on. Sometimes we had a meeting every day, depending on where we were at somebody's office. We sit down, let's try to figure this out. Yeah. So, but I started in this kind of thinking a long time ago, but there are people starting right today that have built up very quickly knowledge about how to do business in this kind of marketplace, which is making transactions that work with people that are motivated to make a transaction, and where everybody wins. That's again like how we bought the property in Pensacola. Was we made a deal that worked for the estate in that sale, but also worked for us. So we got young people that are out working, learning right now. We have one guy that came to his first meeting when he was 19 years old. That's like 5 years ago. He's now like 24, and he already has, already has built up a estate. I think it's pretty close to $1 million net worth now in 5 years. But he was willing to learn and to take action, and he did come into a good side of the economy, that's for sure. He hasn't been through his first recession yet, but you can learn this as you go, and there's people, somebody in your market, in your area, your marketplace is going to be there's people all over the country that think this way. You just don't hear them because nobody talks about it. We don't have or local board.
Right.
So that's why we come across nationally, because when we come together, we have, like, say 100 people that are, knowledgeable about their marketplace, about a particular product type, and they may be investors or developers or lenders. We have lenders coming to these meetings, lenders out of New York, and make big transactions, and local lenders, small private lenders. And so it's really amazing, because it's like we have a little big Walmart grocery store where you can find almost everything, and you got people in there that have experience in one area or the other. You want it, and everybody is, for the most part, no organization or person is perfect, but for the most part, we have people that help each other without regards to their own immediate benefit. Again, because we have relationships more important than property. We've had members who got sick, and other members have gone to their city and run their business for a couple months while they were recovering. And at no charge, just because we support each other.
You become a family.
Yeah, I had a hotel in Dallas when Katrina hit. We had we had about 1,000 people in our hotel at the time, the large hotel, that were from New Orleans, because we did a special that weekend, for people that were in the path of the hurricane. Well, little did we know it was actually the hurricane was going to hit. And so we had 1,000 people there. And on the second morning, nobody had, I get emotional thinking about this every time, nobody had any money. Their banks were literally underwater. So, and they couldn't pay to stay. And my operating partner there at the time, and I made the decision, we're not going to kick them out. We'll figure it out. And so we reached out to people in these organizations, these two organizations, and we said, listen, here's what we got. We have people in the hotel, they don't have money, and we're not going to kick them out. We need help. So we had contributions come in, like people literally sent checks and just said, here, one party, sent $50,000.
Wow.
And we had that morning that we found, that second morning when we found that nobody had any money, breakfast was free. But then nobody was available. Nobody came to lunch. But the next day that night we had dinner paid for and lunch paid for everybody who came to who was at the hotel. We did that for 60 days. And that was because of the generosity of a lot of people around the country who, just as relationship, to do what they need to do to support not only you, but you supporting other people. That was a very emotional time for us. And it's an example of the relationships we build up internally that lets us work with each other over the long term, be partners and investors in each other's deals.
Absolutely. And I need more stuff to take to these meetings. So be sure and let me know if you have anything you need to sell or you want to buy even. It's just amazing to see what you guys do and how much I learn from you guys, but just watching the room, how you guys present and how, whenever they're presenting things, everybody's hands are going up saying, I've got somebody that can do this, or and how they can puzzle piece all of this together. And these groups are by invitation only. So they know who they're working with. Somebody's recommending them in the group. So definitely an honor just to be sitting here talking to Chuck in itself. So again, I'm going to post out the links to Chuck's books. So be sure and check that out. Be sure and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you don't miss anything and you'll know when they post. And thank you, Chuck, for joining me. We're going to do one more. And this one's going to be about formulas. It's going to be pretty advanced. So, but I bet you Chuck can break it down so you can understand it. So, thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.